Are you ready?
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
I was right.
Let's go!
I'm the best.
And here are your hosts, Jessica Town and Rob Lange.
You're a jackass.
Embrace the madness.
That's right, everybody. We are back. Welcome to the madness. I am your host, Rob Lange. Along with me, as always, is the wonderful and newly engaged, although it's been 2 weeks since we've had a chance to be on air together, Jessica Town. Jess, first off, congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I'm so happy. Finally.
You had to slip the finally in there, though, didn't you?
My mom actually told me, she was like, I was worried that you weren't going to say yes. You're just going to be like, it's about damn time. It was, but I still cried my eyes out.
And you know what's funny? It's like you obviously have been talking about this for a while, so it was something like in my head. I was like, all right, it's gonna. But still, like when I saw the picture, there was still like that kind of like shock and awe in the moment. And I was like, oh my god, so, you know. And there you go. Here's some right off the bat. You're gonna get a couple congrats, Jess, popping in there. So we are very happy for you and Joseph, and you know that's good stuff. Good stuff. So. That was at least that thank God was happening in your life recently, Jess, because Philadelphia sports has not been adding too much love to your life.
No, and it's been lovely because that happened, and then the next day they played the Bengals. The Eagles played the Bengals. So it was one of those things where I was like, I could not care less what happens today because I am just on cloud nine. And I was like, wow, you picked a great weekend to propose that I wouldn't care about anything the Eagles did because that was a time.
Oh man,
that was a time.
That tie might be worse than any loss they've had this year. To be honest with you,
I just pretend that didn't happen. That was the worst thing we've seen in my own two
Although that tie did give us first place in the NFC East for a week,
a whole ass week. It was lovely.
A whole ass week we had it, and we were this close to continuing it this week if it wasn't for the Giants' shoddy ass secondary. Allowing awful bombs from Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton. So we have a lot to talk about in our hour tonight. We have obviously the Eagles and what's happening with them. Even though they lost last week, I felt like many of us came out of last week a little more positive than we have been, maybe because the offense kind of showed some signs of life. We maybe found a diamond in the rough in Travis Fulgham. We'll talk a little bit about that. But on the other end of that, the Jim Schwartz, as my name and as our man Chris has already seen, not Chip Schwartz. Yes, that is his new name. He is now Chip Schwartz because he's an arrogant asshat, as that's my new word, remember. And we have to talk about Chip Schwartz a little bit. But we also need to talk about the Sixers welcoming Doc Rivers, which to me is just a great hire. You know, it was one of those things where I wanted them to hire someone that had pedigree, that had coaching experience, that had championship coaching experience. And when Doc first came available, I think we all were like, oh my God, that would be perfect. But I didn't think that the Sixers were smart enough to jump at it. Well, they jumped.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of those things where I think after they let go of Brett Brown, if you would have said to me, okay, all things equal, it doesn't matter if he has a job or not, who would you like to be the next head coach of the Sixers? You can choose anybody in the world. And Doc Rivers is my number one choice for that. That like 150%, he is the first person that I would think of and say, I want that guy to be the head coach of the Sixers. And the fact that the fact that the Sixers were actually smart enough to make it happen is amazing to me in itself. But just the fact that I have so much confidence in the fact that he has confidence in both Ben and Joel, and he knows they can work together, and he can appreciate what both of them do well. And I think he will be able to get that out of them, get out what they do well and not put them in positions to not do well. And I'm just very excited to truthfully, I think that even if the roster doesn't change at all, which, obviously isn't going to happen. But if they come back with the same exact roster, I think we're looking at a completely different team. And I think one of the most underrated things about that is everyone's, we're including us right now, like talking about how, oh yeah, working with Ben and Joel, woo, 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 woo. Let's keep in mind, this guy got the best out of Tobias Harris that Tobias Harris has been in his career, aside from the fact that there are so many amazing guys in the backcourt in the West that there were physically not enough all-star spots there for Tobias Harris. I mean, he was more or less an all-star before the Sixers traded for him. So I think that's the most underrated piece of that Doc Rivers signing.
Yeah, and listen, I think Doc is the perfect temperament for this team, for some of the young. He knows how to coach superstars. He knows how to coach young guys. He's done it. He's done it both. I mean, you got to remember that Boston team was like that first big three that got put together. And I mean, he handled that so well. And if you end up –
personalities too. Like,
yeah,
not
and that's what I'm going to say. If you have an opportunity, Netflix has a special where they talk to these sports minds. And the first episode was Doc Rivers. And he talked about coaching that. And I watched that right after he became available. I watched that. And it's a half hour. And I turned it off and I went, that's got to be my coach. Like, that's got to be the guy that's here. And not only that, he makes great decisions, as our man James, thanks for tuning in, says some good moves already to boost assistant coaches. They hire Dave. Is it Jorger?
No.
What's that?
I was going to say Yager, but there's an R in there that I didn't realize was there.
Whatever it is, he's a good coach. He's a defensive-minded coach. He's going to come in here. He's also been known to coach in a variety of different systems. So you're going to have that. This camera is super close to me right now, and I don't like it. So, he's already making the right hires there. I personally believe he will play a role in who comes here, who's on this team. What's that?
Jaeger. Apparently, Joel can hear us from the living room and just texted me the phonetic spelling of.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Whatever. He's a good coach. Okay, he's a good coach, and I just think that it was finally a move that the Sixers have made that you don't scratch your head about. Like, this was a no-brainer. They went out and they made the deal, and I love a guy of a Doc pedigree. And we'll talk about this maybe a little bit later in the show as well, and what we can expect from all this stuff, and and what it means for Joel, what it means for Ben. What it means for the possibility you got to bring in some shooters now. I mean, that's, you still need that around these guys. And obviously the name Buddy Hield is getting thrown out there at an unbelievably high rate right now. And someone brought this up. You're starting to see little inklings of front office change happening. Now, the one that was made today was kind of minute. It was the VP of strategy. But talking to some of our guys, the painted lines, they said he was a guy that they can never fully get an answer on what his true role was with the team.
Gotcha.
And he ended up getting a job with the Jazz. And now you're hearing like Daryl Morey becomes available and everyone's jumping that, are the Sixers going to make a move to try and bring him in to have him kind of collaborate with Elton Brand and really build a winner here. So we'll see. I mean, listen, it's a good start to the offseason, but we've been here before, Jess, with Philly teams, right? With good starts to the offseason that turn into just absolute garbage. So,
they end up like it's a good start and then nothing else ever happens. So I think that's my biggest fear.
Right. So we have to figure all that out. But before we get to the Eagles, there's one other thing we have to talk about, and it's, of course, someone did bring this up too, that Buddy and Jaeger had issues before. I don't think that prevents a deal. It's not. I feel like Buddy wants to win. Buddy doesn't want to be in Sacramento. Buddy's also going to look, I think, at Doc Rivers more so than Dave Jaeger.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
You know what I mean? And kind of say, hey, I'll go play for Doc, something like that. Mm-hmm. But I want to talk about the Phillies just briefly, just so I can get pissed off for 5 minutes. 5 minutes of being angry. There's been a ton of reports since the season basically ended that the Phillies seem as though they're preparing to lose JT Realmuto and all this stuff. And then John Middleton apparently in an interview this week is basically, and I'm not gonna direct quote him, so maybe I'm slanting this and somebody could tell me. But basically is crying poor because, I guess he only has $1 billion instead of 2. And obviously I'm making those numbers up. But when you want to talk about being out of touch with society, that you are a billionaire. I understand that the money you lost probably was significant. But I also understand that the money you still have is more than most of us combined. And for you to cry poor and to say you can't afford JT Realmuto, or you have to cut Jim Jackson, who has done, double duty in this city for 14 years and been really good at what he did for the Phillies, and quote, because of COVID, it's bogus. I'm sorry. It's just total utter bogus. It's arrogance. It's being a miser. It's all of it. And I don't like counting people's money. I really don't. But there's something about it when that top of the food chain, when it comes to financials in this country, wants to bitch and complain that they lost some money, yet they still have more than almost, the entire population. And that is extremely, extremely frustrating to me. And if JT Realmuto goes to the Yankees because John Middleton doesn't want to go into his pockets, well, then guess what? We got rid of Matt Klentak, right? Well, kind of. Great. But obviously, if Realmuto goes, this isn't Klentak and McPhail. Now you have to go up the food chain more. And who is it? It's John Middleton is the problem. And I really, 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 really hope John Middleton is not the problem.
And it just, especially after going into everything they did with Bryce Harper and saying, the stupid money comment, and they're making everyone believe that they actually value building a winning team, when in reality he values lining his pockets. And that's what's frustrating to me. And that's what irks me more than anything. And because he doesn't want to go into the luxury tax and wants to just then what was the point? Why sign Bryce Harper for 13 years and X amount of dollars with no trade clause and no opt-outs? Like, what was the point of that? What was the point of trading Sixto? What was the point of so many things they've done if you don't actually care about if you're not going to do everything it takes to build a winning roster? It doesn't make sense.
And especially when you said you would do whatever it takes to bring that championship trophy back home. And then when your $350 million man is getting on a plane to go home for the offseason, and he's wearing the JT Realmuto shirt, and he's literally putting in his comment is, there should be no questions asked, sign him, and your entire fan base is screaming for you to sign him, now's the time to put up the money there, John. Like, now's the time to put up the money. Like, don't live off of the fact that you brought Bryce Harper here, because it means nothing if you don't build around him.
100%.
And the Phillies aren't far off. They're really not far off. I don't think they are.
I agree. Doing either I think I might have said this to you before. I mean, when you talk about like this, we talk about the Zach Ertz thing, right? And him getting an extension or whatever. There's an argument on the other side. And I understand the argument on the other side. There's an argument for both directions there. Yeah. Like, I have my opinion. Sure. Okay. But I have my opinion on it regardless. But the other side also makes sense. There is quite literally not another side to this conversation. Like, right. This is it. Like, he is quite literally the best catcher in baseball. And he showed you that this year. There's like, I don't know what we're waiting for. I don't. That I think is the thing that frustrates me more than anything, that they've actually are selling to themselves that they have another option here. Yeah. And they don't.
And they don't in any way, shape, or form. Like, what you're doing is you're creating an environment that the Phillies have had with the fan base for years and years and years outside of the run from 2007 to 2011, right? Outside of that run, Phillies fans don't show up. We don't show up. And it's because of the product you put out there. Like, yeah, we were pumped at the beginning of last season when you brought all these guys in and you were getting the fans. But Phillies fan, and I don't say this in a negative way. Sometimes people hear this term and they think of it in a negative way. We are fair weather when it comes to the Philadelphia Phillies, but it's because they've given us nothing to believe in outside of a 5-6 year window in 2007 to 2012, right? So you cannot make this mistake. This is going to set your franchise back so long. And then if you're Bryce Harper, what do you say? What do you say? Like, what the hell? Why did I come here? You told me you were going to build a winner. What are you doing?
If I'm Bryce Harper, I'm beyond furious because it's crap is what it like. There's no reason why. I just feel, I feel like if I'm Bryce Harper, I feel swindled and I'm frustrated at myself. And Bryce Harper is a competitive, he's a competitive guy, right? Like he was born to play sports because that's just kind of he has that. And the fact that they're not doing anything to help themselves, it's just, it's so frustrating.
I know. And it's and here we are, you're good at that. That off season's going to be here before you know it because everything is crazy right now. And they're already into the league championship series in the playoffs. And you just have no faith. You have no faith in this team to do the right thing.
No.
And, whereas we didn't have faith in the Sixers, and the Sixers maybe are starting to try and make us believe again with what many people in the town feel is the right coaching hire, the right staff. There's rumors that people believe Sam Cassell is going to be the next assistant that might follow Doc over here, which I think Sam Cassell is a great young guy to have when you have the personalities of Ben and Joel and all those guys. But the Phillies, it's what are you going to do? What are they going to do? Are they going to fix the bullpen or are they not going to fix the bullpen? Are they going to sign JT Realmuto or are they not going to? Are they going to try and sell us that everything's okay? And Chris is right. It's been now almost 10 years since the Phillies were in the playoffs again, right? We talk about how we have to stop living off the Super Bowl for the Eagles, and that was only 3 years ago.
Yeah.
This is 10. You can't stop giving me 08 at this point.
When the baseball season starts, it will be 10 years since the Phillies were in the playoffs.
And it'll be 12 years since they won the World Series. So you cannot fight that anymore. You cannot use that. 13 years. 13. 12.
2011 was the last. The last thing that happened to the Phillies in the playoffs was Ryan Howard busted his Achilles. That's how long ago the Phillies.
And the baseball since then has been so piss poor.
So bad.
It reminds you of the pre-golden era of Phillies baseball there.
It was such a good time.
Oh my God. So, when you look at it from there, think about where we were 10 years ago, Jess. Think about where we were 10 years ago.
Bank Park.
You were in a much different position than I was. Where did you say you were?
Citizens Bank Park is where I was.
Yes, but in life.
In life, I was in middle school. 10 years ago?
Yeah.
What year is it? I was in high school 10 years ago.
Thank Jesus. I was just starting my teaching career. Okay, I was just starting my teaching career. I wasn't married. There were no friggin' children. There was nothing. I was drinking on the weekends and enjoying myself. It was a great time. Sorry, we can't talk about that today.
We're not talking about drinking.
Jess is a trooper, ladies and gentlemen. It had been 2 weeks since we did a show, and she was like, I'm pushing through. She had a rough one last night, but she is here, and she is back to being, as she said, a human being. So she is here for this talk tonight.
A shell of a human for the majority of today.
Damn,
shell.
Chris got to go into a freshman in high school.
I was a sophomore in high school.
Oh my God. I was teaching 8th graders, you jerks. All right. So now we'll move to the team that obviously dominates the headlines right now, albeit they have not been the greatest of headlines.
They've been unfortunate.
And that would be the Philadelphia Eagles, who are coming off of another loss I think the final ended up, 39-29 or 38-29, whatever the final score was because of, and we'll get to this play. I have a feeling we're going to spend a lot of time on this play. But because none of the coaches on the sideline wanted to pay attention to the facts that Nate Gary was somehow lined up on Chase Claypool, who had already had a career game up until that point. Jess, I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but I'm curious where you stand on the defensive game plan of that Pittsburgh game.
So I obviously put the last play on game plan. 100%. I put the last play on play call. That last play is on Jim Schwartz, and there's absolutely no question about it. I'm just really tired of seeing Nate Gary out there every week. I mean, it's just at this point, it's pathetic and embarrassing how little this team values linebackers and has for the majority of my lifetime. Aside from, Jeremiah Trotter, who I think would be better right now wherever he is than whatever is going on the field. And he's in the area. I think his sons go to the prep. So
yep.
I mean, like he can go suit up on Sunday if he really feels like it, honestly. I mean, I think I would be better on the field than any of the linebackers they have right now. It's just, I think I just think that I 100% put on Jim Schwartz and the defensive game plan. Aside from that, the missed tackles, the penalties, the lack of production from the defensive line, and just the fact that we have linebackers on the field that couldn't start on any other team in the NFL. And they're, for some reason, the starters here. That's kind of where my mind goes at this point. And I think there are parts of it that at times are more down to, okay, well, this is what we have to work with. But then there's other things that, like on a 3rd and short, Darius Slay playing 10 yards off. Like, what the hell is that BS? Like, so I go back and forth. There are pieces on both sides to me. But I think that the most, kind of damning thing is you look around the league and you see guys that you have let go or let walk or traded or cut, and they are having unbelievable years. And that comes down to coaching in some capacity on the defensive side, especially. And the fact that, it also comes back to the fact that Jim Schwartz has control of the defensive roster, and so it's not, I blame Howie for everything this season is Howie's fault. But I mean, we can blame Howie all we want, but at the end of the day, Jim Schwartz got final say on the defensive roster. And the fact that Nate Gary's still on this team and guys like Jordan Hicks, Kama Grugier-Hill, LJ Fort, all those guys are not around. And
yeah. And listen, and this kind of says it. Gary's playing time's completely on him, which you said. And the fact that he said that isn't his decision is bogus. And this is where I want to get to with Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz is the type of coach, and this is why he couldn't be a head coach, right? He's got his system, and he believes whatever players he has to fit that system. He won't adjust that system to fit what he has. Hence why you see this year guys like Rasul Douglas playing well. You're hearing that Sidney Jones is playing somewhat well, although I'm not ready to say Sidney's a great player yet.
He's playing out of his GD mind right now, actually.
Yeah. Right. LJ Fort couldn't even get on the field here, but Nate Gary could. He's dominating in Baltimore right now. And then you have Schwartz come out in his midweek press conference and say, well, personnel decisions aren't mine. That is a bold-faced lie. You have
it came out this week that in terms of who dresses, that's Howie's call.
That's a whole nother issue in itself. But before I get to that, Jim Schwartz has full autonomy over the players that this team brings in to be on his defense. It's been like that since day one. It's been like that since day one. It's been why Leotis McKelvin was here, why Ronald Darby was here, why who was the damn linebacker they brought in? Tulloch from Detroit was here. They're guys he knows. But when Nate Gerry is playing 100% of the snaps, week in and week out, and he has 5 solo tackles. I wasn't on the screen there. My hand was halfway. 5 solo tackles. And Sean Bradley has played like, I don't know, 3% of the snaps and has 3 solo tackles. What does that tell you? Like, if you're going to be bad, if you're going to be historically bad at a position, why not be bad with the young guys that still have the opportunity to grow into something, right? Go down with these young guys. Nate Gerry should not be in the NFL. Nate Gerry cannot play in this league. How many freeze frames have we seen over the last 3 weeks where he is facing the complete opposite direction of where the ball is? And I know people say, oh, well, I mean, it could be taken on no, you can't take facing 180 degrees in the wrong direction.
Out of context every time.
Yes.
Especially every time. And it happens every time.
First of all, he should never have been in the situation that he was to cover Chase Claypool. But did you by any chance see the angle he took at Chase Claypool on the play?
Yeah.
He runs directly at him. What are you doing? What are you doing? He doesn't have the ball. You're not going to tackle. Like, he ran at him like he wanted to tackle him. And honestly, I wish he would have just tackled him. It would have made for a better play for the Eagles if he would have just tackled him. Yeah. But Jim Schwartz, my issue with him is he's arrogant. He does his own thing. It's his guys out there. So, you like, as much as, and I'm with you on Howie, but it's his guy he puts out there. You can't tell me that Sean Bradley and Davion Taylor would be worse than Nate Gerry. You can't tell me that.
No.
You can't. I mean, I saw Sean Bradley make one play in the Pittsburgh game that Nate Gerry will never, ever make on the goal line when he came up and laid the wood on James Conner. So at this point, and we'll talk about this when we get into the Ravens game a little bit, but if I'm the Eagles, I go, listen, we got to try something different at linebacker. This isn't working. The Duke Rileys and Nate Gerry's can't hack it. They just can't hack it. So to me, Schwartz is on a thin lead. Well, I don't know where he is with the organization because the organization does nothing the way they should anymore. Mm-hmm. For example, all the holes that this team has right now, who do they bring in for a workout this week? A kicker from the CFL.
Yeah, that just –
What are you doing? Like, seriously, there are 5 veteran linebackers out there who, they are not what they used to be in this league, but they would provide you with much more than what the linebackers on this roster would. I saw the Eagles are 32nd in the league with money allotted to linebackers. It's like $4 million is what they allot to a position that has become vital on defenses.
And that's what I'm pretty sure that's what Kamo Grugier-Hill's contract, 1-year contract in Miami is worth, $4 million.
I mean, think about it. How much better would you feel just having – and it's not like I'm sitting here saying Kamo Grugier-Hill is a all-pro linebacker. But, damn it, he's solid enough to play over these claims that they're putting out there.
Oh, my God, yes. And don't even get me started on Jordan Hicks because I'll go there. At the end of I mean, we finally drafted one. We had one.
It's just – It's so frustrating on so many different levels. And then it's like the excuses in the press conference.
I've stopped watching the press conferences because I can't. I don't
watch them. What I'll do is I'll catch up afterwards. And, James is saying exactly the guy that comes to mind. I know Clay Matthews is old. I know he is. And I know he's not the same Clay Matthews that he was, 5-6 years ago in Green Bay.
Right.
But I would take Clay Matthews over Nate Gerry. I would take Clay Matthews over Nate Gerry. And listen, our buddy who's always on from the Joe Show Philly Sports Talk, we got to do better. That's all you hear. We got to do. And then the excuses. Why don't you call a timeout? If Ben Roethlisberger can see it, you obviously can see that Nate Gerry's in a bad position. Oh, well, we figured we were going to need the timeouts. No, the timeouts aren't going to matter because they're going to score a touchdown now and the game's going to be over.
Yes.
If you call that timeout, then maybe. And they're in game. Like there was a play in that game, and I was in a foggy mode during that game mentally. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really react to it because I thought maybe I'm just seeing things. Near the end of the first half, okay, the Eagles complete a pass to Travis Fulgham, and he steps out of bounds. It's under a minute. 25 seconds runs off the clock. Nobody says a thing. Not the announcers, who were god-awful. But how, if you are an Eagles coach, you have 30 coaches on that sideline. You mean to tell me no one sees that clock never stopped rolling? And what happens? They run out of time. Mm-hmm. Like, if those 20 seconds don't run off the clock, do they run out? They probably get a field goal. And who knows where it is from that point. They probably get that field goal. Are you
talking about the end of the first half or towards the end of the game?
The end of the first half. I
feel like they replayed that, and maybe he I feel like he maybe did, rolled out of bounds or something. No, there was or am I just making things up now?
Because listen, I was watching he literally catches it and steps out of bounds. Like, he's not shoved out. It's not like forward progress was stopped or anything like that. And the Eagles should see that. Why is there not a guy on the sideline watching the clock? It's just, these are the little things with this organization.
I have no answers.
No, these are the little things with this organization that is a problem. And look, the offenses finally seems like they're starting to find their way. But as James says, this defense right now is a train wreck outside of, say, Darius Slay.
Yes, who's currently in concussion protocol.
Yeah. I think he's going to be okay. I do think he's going to be okay. But can you tell me why Jim Schwartz can't tell his defensive ends to stay home? Teams that don't run reverses are beating the Eagles on reverses. Every team runs reverses against the Eagles now because their ends, like Derek Barnett, come flying down the line without looking at all, without play recognition at all. And it's like, what the hell is going on? See, Chris is with me.
Also, if I had $1 for every time Derek Barnett lines up offsides,
oh my God,
I'd be able to, buy myself a nice meal somewhere or something. It's absurd. Like, death taxes and Derek Barnett lining up on the wrong side of the ball. I can't deal with it. It's every single time. Like, I'm at the point now where I'm like, I just sit there and I'm just like, yeah, that's about right. Mm-hmm. I can't even bring myself to scream at my TV anymore because I'm just like,
there were just so many stupid penalties, throughout the game.
So bad. And I would also like to see a replay of any which one of them. But whoever was running that Fox broadcast should absolutely never get control of anything ever again because that was abysmal.
Oh my God, the broadcast, poor, Jonathan Vilma is a nice guy, but man, was he out of his friggin' league. He was out of his league. And listen, decent. And this is part of back to Schwartz, right? Chris Long once said Eagles defensive ends were not responsible for contain. On a reverse, they have to be. They have to be because the linebacker's job is the flow with the play. So the back end defensive end has to stay home. Like, most likely you're not going to be the guy that gets down the line and makes that tackle, right? Stay the hell home. All you got to do is slow him up for 2 seconds in the NFL, and somebody else is going to get back there. And instead of a 50-yard play, it might be a 5-yard play.
You hope. And
then the Eagles can't run reverses themselves, which is, baffling.
They choose not to. I
don't know. It's just so frustrating.
You spent all this time telling me, oh, we have so much speed. We got the speed. That's great. Why aren't we using it?
Well, they got the speed, and then they run reverses with the guys that aren't the speed guys. It's like, oh.
Have they even run one yet this year? I don't even remember one.
They attempted one. Who was it with? Who the heck was it with? It might have been with, Greg Ward, who I guess has – but he's not one of the guys that they drafted for speed purposes, right?
Yeah.
He's not, but they ran it with Greg Ward, or they, I forget who it might have been. They tried to run one with that Adrian Killens in the last game.
That's right. He had negative 12 yards.
Negative 12 yards on it. So listen, we could beat it to the death. The only other thing I want to talk about from that game on the offensive side of the ball, even though things were better, I understand that the Eagles fell behind and had to throw. But 11 runs in a game with who Doug wanted to come out again this week and tell us is our 3-down bell cow back. There's not a bell cow back in the league that only gets 11 carries in a game. No matter how good the run defense is.
8 in the first half?
What's that?
Was it like 8 in the first half or something?
Yeah, and it was because you have to run. Just look at the Eagles' win-loss record when they have a more balanced approach compared to when they don't.
I mean, there's no reason that a running back should break off a 70-yard touchdown run in the first quarter and then finish with under 100 yards.
It's absurd.
Like, how does that happen?
I mean,
and that's no reason for that.
And I know some people wanted to take that out on Miles. No, I'm taking that out on Doug because he doesn't give them enough opportunities. And why, if he's your bell cow 3-down back, why late in games do you not have him in? Like, what are you doing? Why is Corey Clement in the game? And I loved the Corey Clement story in 2017. I loved it. It's over.
Yeah, he's just not doing. He's not living up to it again, and it's unfortunate because again, I do love Corey and I wish he would, but the fact that they don't have Miles in there late in the game, and then he gets thrown under the bus for being tired or this, that, other thing. I mean, you know what would have solved that problem? Rob, what would have solved that problem?
I want to hear more of what you have to say.
You know exactly what I'm about to say. You know what would have solved that problem? Taking J.K. Dobbins at 53, jackasses.
Jess, we have created a Twitter storm that me and you, anytime J.K. Dobbins has a positive impact on the game Sunday. I'm
just going to tweet the face with like the straight line mouth, this one.
And I'm just going to tweet 53 period Jalen Hurts. That's what I'm going to tweet.
And it sucks because I like Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I do too.
I hate the fact that he is a Philadelphia Eagle. I hate it.
There was no
reason.
Look at that. For it. Some of these linebackers that are out there playing. You look at some of these other wide receivers that are out there, and you say to yourself, what thought process could you have been going through in that moment? Look at Jeremy Chin, by the way, right now, who I was like huge on that guy.
Yeah.
He's dominating in Carolina from the safety position. Dominating. Antoine Winfield Jr. in Tampa, hell of a year so far. These were guys I wanted with that pick. No. Smartest guy in the room, Howie Roseman. We're going to take Jalen Hurts so that he could be the scout team quarterback this week and play the Lamar Jackson role. That's what you want out of your 53rd pick. That's what you want. So let's move to this. Go ahead.
It just manufactured so many issues. The one pass he threw last week, I would like to see more plays like that. I think what I really like about what the Saints do with Taysom Hill is you don't always know exactly what he's going to do when he comes into the game. He'll come in, he'll take the ball himself, he'll hand it off, he'll throw the ball. You have to honor every part of a quarterback's game when he comes in the game. And I think that's more what the Eagles need to do with Jalen Hurts is let him be a threat from all different places and, put him on the field without Carson still out there. I mean, I don't have a problem with that, a play here and a play there. Yeah. At the end of the day, they've got multiple guys who can do multiple things, and even like using Greg Ward in a kind of little gadget play here and there. But that's where the, creativity that Doug's supposed to be a world beater at needs to come in, because if that's what Howie's going to give you at 53, figure out a way to use it and make it help you win. You know what I mean? And I just think there's a way to do it. And there's so much more that goes into it in terms of, the stupid quarterback BS. And even after Carson Wentz had a good game on Sundays, when we did our questions for Babes on Broad, we still had one that was like, how many weeks until the quarterback controversy? And it's like, all right, giant middle finger to you, none, never, shut up.
the one
Jump
thing
the quarterback controversy right up where the sun don't shine.
Yeah.
We're not doing
it. I was going to say is I don't want to see him go to what New Orleans does with Taysom Hill in the sense I think they do it too much out there. And I totally like you saw it. I know they won the other night, but if you watch the game on
I also think that's partly because like Drew Brees is getting old and his arm strength isn't where it used to be. And I think they're trying to like integrate it in more to make it more of a balanced attack between the two of them. I don't think that's where the Eagles are going at all, and I don't want them to.
But it's okay to have a couple of yes. And if, like you said, you have the element of surprise where you don't know if he's going to throw it, run it, hand it off, and maybe there's a super trick play that they can pull. I don't know. What the hell are they going to do? But, I'm okay with that. I just, once again, and we could say this forever, I just wish they didn't spend their 53rd pick on a guy that's going to run 1 or 2 plays a game. It's not going to change.
You'd love for your 53rd pick to be able to have an impact. And, the fact that that's what you do at 53 and then with your 3rd round pick, like we don't know what Davion Taylor is. We don't know what he could be, but like you take a project in the 3rd round,
Meanwhile, there were other linebackers that are playing right away, such as Logan Wilson in Cincinnati, who's having a heck of a season as a rookie, who you could have taken at that spot. But, what do we know, Jess? What do we know? We're just a couple little podcasters, Jess. You're a bigger podcaster, but we're just a couple little podcasters, and we don't know anything like the Eagles. So let's move ahead to the Baltimore Ravens this week. It's a daunting task. It's a challenge. There's no doubt about it. But I got a strange feeling this week. And you know me, Jess.
Yeah.
Normally, I'm Mr. Pessimist. Normally, I'm Mr.
Negativity.
Yeah, Mr. There's a game like this. There ain't a chance in hell this team's going to win, right? That's me on a normal day. There's something, and maybe what it is that the offense seemed to find a little, identity. Like they seem to, for the last 2 weeks, you've watched Carson get out of the pocket a little bit more. You've watched Travis Fulgham do things at the wide receiver position that we haven't seen since 2017 Alshon, where he's going up and catching the ball at its highest point, where he's running crisp routes, where he does it like a guy who's been there before. Like he acts like he's been doing this for 5 years.
I love it.
And, he's strong. I mean, you saw him rip down a couple balls. And I think that's important. But I will say this. The key to this game is to get ahead early. There are plenty of stats out there that talk about when Lamar Jackson has to come back in a game.
Not good.
Is extremely pedestrian as a quarterback. But if the Ravens get up early, it's lights out. You don't come back against the Ravens once they get up on you.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's ball control. It's a balanced attack with the running. I know that they have a good defense, but you got to try and run the ball. And listen, I know people are going to kill me for this. They killed me last night. They're going to kill me again today. But I'm going to say it. I am intrigued. I won't say excited because excited would be too much. I am intrigued to see Alshon Jeffrey on the field.
I hate you.
Okay, that's fine. And let me just tell you why, though. Let me just tell you why. There have been plenty of reports this year that he has been almost like he's done a 180 in the locker room from where he's been the last couple. Almost like this injury and all the what that went on last year. And he's kind of, self-reflected, I guess, in the offseason and thought, my career is going down. It is the end of his career. Yes, he's not the same Alshon you saw 4 years ago. But my thought is this. If you have Alshon and Fulgham lining up on the outsides, if you have Ward as a slot guy, and I don't know, I mean, take your pick at the 4th wide receiver position right now.
I'd rather.
I'm not going to say Arcega-Whiteside. I'm just not. I'd rather you play Boston Scott as a 4th wide receiver than play J.J. Arcega-Whiteside.
Sure.
But the idea of having some size on the outside on both sides is a little intriguing for me. And I'm curious. Look, it could pan out where he does nothing. And now listen, this is true. This is not what I'm saying. I'm not saying Alshon takes snaps. I'm saying they're both out there. You know what I mean? Like it's one's on one side, one's on the other side type of thing. I've given up on Deshaun Jackson. I just don't trust it anymore. I feel bad. Look, the guy can't stay healthy, but I've just given up on this whole thing with him. It's just, it ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. He can't stay healthy. I'm
so over Alshon.
I know.
I'm so over. I was over let's call it what it is. He played all of 2017 with a torn rotator cuff, and he went out there and balled, and no one had any idea until after the season when he had surgery. Okay.
It will never be this season, by the way.
Then 2018 is what it is. 2019, he comes in, has a little bit of a calf issue early in the season. He tries to sort of play through it, but like not really. And is very like, not powering through kind of. And if you remember, Doug made some comment like at some point we've got to, play through some of these things.
He was pouting.
And then, he would have balls hit him in the hands and drop him on the ground and then be like, and like kick the ground and hang his head and walk off the field. And then, the whole thing with Josina Anderson. And, I'm pretty over it. And then the fact that he's still here and has been eating up a roster spot through 6 weeks and hasn't played yet and could have easily started the season on IR or on the PUP or something. And
that goes back to
that goes back to Howie. But at the end of the day, I'm pretty over the Alshon thing at this point.
They have mismanaged how to use this IR for the last 3 years. It makes no sense to me. It makes zero sense to me.
So I really could care less if what he does. I don't want Carson Wentz looking his way once. Like I don't want him ever, choosing Alshon over Travis Fulgham at this point.
No, and I'm not trying to
be together at the same time. There's that chance that it happens. And I don't, nope.
All I'm saying is I'm intrigued to see what it looks like out there with another big body. With a guy that's not J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, with a guy that's not Deontay Burnett or, whatever else you can throw out there from the wide receiver position. But, John Hightower is this close to catching a bomb for a touchdown. He's this close. And I think that maybe eventually it can happen for him, but we'll see. But I think the Eagles can score with the Ravens. As crazy as that sounds. But the key in this game is getting out early. I'm looking at this game very similarly to 2 games last year where we just didn't think the Eagles had it, and they were going into a really tough opponent. And I'm thinking Green Bay, and I'm thinking Buffalo. And what they did was they balanced their attack. They kept the best weapon in the game off the field, which in this game is Lamar Jackson. And they were able the Packers game to close it down late, but the Bills game, they dominated that Bills game, if you remember.
Yeah.
And that is what I have this weird feeling you're going to see something, a mixture, a hybrid of those 2 games this week, because as much as I have sat here and bitched about Jim Schwartz, as much as he's on thin ice with me, and if you have another bad week like last week, I want him gone before they leave the stadium on Sunday. Mm-hmm. Jim Schwartz does have a tendency to have good bounce back games, right? Which is kind of why people have always been like, oh, maybe he's not that bad, because typically after there's an embarrassing game for them, he comes back and is a little bit better the next week. You don't see too many Billy Davis types where they're giving up 40 points 2+ games under Jim Schwartz.
And for me, I said going into the season when we were doing our predictions, I thought they were going to win on Sunday night against the 49ers. And I said if they win against the 49ers, they're going to go to Pittsburgh and they're going to lose, and they're going to split between the Steelers and the Ravens.
Yeah.
So this has always been my thought. And I thought if it was the other way, if they lost on Sunday night, they were going to go out and win in Pittsburgh and probably drop the one at home against the Ravens. So this was kind of how I thought this little couple games here was going to go. So I do think they're going to win on Sunday.
And listen, I know it's going to be a small amount, but this team specifically is very – I don't think they have a really strong mental side to the point where they can create their own energy. There's going to be something about the optics of seeing 7,500 fans in that stadium may make a difference to some of these guys, as weird as that. It shouldn't.
The boo of the crowd noise or the fake crowd noise really just doesn't get the job done.
Yeah, no, but it shouldn't have any effect, but I wouldn't be surprised if a couple guys – now, the defense has to take this game personal after what happened last week. All 11 guys. Now, you get Will Parks. There's reports Will Parks will be back this week. I'm excited to see him out there. But here's what obviously, every single play, I do not care. You need to spy Lamar Jackson in this game, right? So I referenced last night, the movie Remember the Titans. Okay. And do you remember in the scene in Remember the Titans, Petey fumbles the ball. Coach Boone yells at him like crazy. He's about to walk off the field and quit. Coach Yost walks over to him and says, "Don't worry about all that. Come play defense for me. 45's killing us." And Petey goes, "Coach, I don't know any of the plays." But what Yost saw was a quick athlete. And he said, "All I want you to do is go out there, stick 45 wherever he goes. We'll worry about the rest after we wrap this one up." So you know who I want spying all game? And it won't happen, but you know who I want?
Who?
Who is a guy that is on this defense who apparently is lightning quick, but is a super project? So outside of just, hey, look at number 8. Wherever he goes, you go. That's simple. Why not? Why not? He's supposed to be like, and maybe it doesn't work. But guess what? Who's going to spy him? You're going to put Nate Gary spying Lamar Jackson? If I swear to God,
bad time.
I swear to God, if I catch a glimpse of Nate Gary attempting to spy Lamar Jackson, and I watch Lamar Jackson just kind of do one of these and run right past him, the tirade that I will probably go on Twitter will be it will be an all-timer for me. It will be an all-timer for me if I see that happen. So, this game it's not easy.
No.
And I may be just picking with my heart, and I may also be picking with this is exactly when the Eagles win a game. Because, everyone's counting them out. They're 1-3-1 now. Dallas is 2-3. Yes, they lose Dak, but they have a serviceable backup. They still have weapons on offense, and Dallas's schedule is much easier than the Eagles going forward. So, where I could see Dallas getting the 9 wins, I struggle seeing the Eagles get to 7 or 8 because of their schedule.
James have the hardest remaining schedule, and the Cowboys have the easiest in the NFL.
James is big on the comparison of Nate Gary to Aul Neto.
I think that's pretty accurate, honestly. That's one of the best comparisons.
I will say Chris and I both said last night, I'll take Aul Neto on defense over Nate Gary any day of the week. And twice on Sundays. I will go a step further. I'll put Aul Neto in pads and take him as my linebacker over Nate Gary.
Sheesh. He's a low guy. That wouldn't go well.
I don't care. I don't care anymore. But so I'm going to say that the Eagles are going to win. I think I said yesterday, 31-27. Eagles find a way to win this game because they get out early and they make Lamar have to throw the ball and be a pedestrian quarterback rather than the superstar athlete that he is.
Yeah, I think they're beatable. I think that if you can get them.
I had a third. That's a great line. It's a great line. I love it.
I lost my train of thought. I think exactly what I said, if they can get up early, I think that they're going to be able to stop Lamar, because Lamar is still very much a project in certain aspects of his game.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not always the most accurate passer. He doesn't always make the best decisions. He's just a phenomenal athlete. And that's why he's good at what he does. And he's changing the game proving a lot of people wrong from you should just be a running back perspective. That being said, I don't trust this Eagles defense for anything. So but the Ravens also have a phenomenal defense. So I'm not going to go as high a score as you, but I think more of like a 27-21, 27-20, that kind of range.
Fair. Yeah, I feel like the Eagles are going to have to score, because I do think that Baltimore will get points. This defense is going to let up. I'm not as worried about the Baltimore receivers as I am Lamar Jackson. And they have a strong running game with Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins. Both guys can run the ball really well. I am concerned about Mark Andrews, the tight end. I know he hasn't had a great year, but have you noticed
is on fire?
What's that?
Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews, their connection is phenomenal that they have.
And so, like, someone had put out a stat that Mark Andrews hasn't gone over 60 yards in a game this year. However, I will say this: Tyler Higbee has done nothing all year except for one game, and that was against the Eagles. And that concerns me, because now Will Parks coming back could be a huge play in that, because you might be able to shift a couple of these guys around to maybe
it would not be Nate Gary's problem to cover.
Yeah, Nate Gary's problem, or Marcus Epps, or any of these other guys who don't belong on the field. All right, here's the official Cali Dream prediction. If we have no third quarter interception, I'm predicting a win. Listen, Carson's finding it. He's finding it.
Yeah, it's a shame that he threw that last interception, because that was
and then the Indians all jump on him. He was trying. You're down 2 scores with a minute and a half left. You have to just do that at some point.
And it was also dumb for the Steelers to make that interception instead of just knocking it to the ground, because it was like 4th and 1,000,000 on their own. What was it? They were on their own like 6. It was just a shame. The first one was bad. It was a really bad interception. It just
but that one I don't put all on him. I think that's a timing route. There's a bump that should have been called illegal contact, but Zach Ertz also stopped as he got bumped, and didn't he? Like, Zach Ertz has got to stop with the sulkiness. A lot of sulk, and I understand the contract issue's frustrating. I get it from a business perspective, but I always looked at Zach Ertz as a mentally tough dude, and I need to see him not sulk as much as he's been. I've kind of got to the point now where I've said he needs to show me something now before I still fight the good fight to get him a contract right now.
Sure.
I just need to see a better effort from the guy. I don't hate him, but he's got to stop with the sulking and all that. Just go out there and ball out, man. Just go out there and ball out, and we'll see what happens. So, Jess, why don't you let our audience know your big day? When's it coming?
July.
Yeah.
So what, 260 some days, 60, 61, something.
She's not counting. She's not counting those. She just
no, we're counting. We're counting. We're 100% counting. There are a lot of things to do, and we don't have all the time in the world.
Wow.
I was up until we went on air, I was making our save the dates. So
there you go.
We're those need to go out the first week of November, because that'll be 8 months. November 2nd's 8 months. So
okay,
we're good. July 2nd, 4th of July weekend. It's gonna be good.
I'm going to speak for all of the ministers of madness out there. We are very, very happy for you guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations again. And with that, we'll end the show on that happy, joyous note. Not all the negatives that are out there with
everything else.
But I will say, I've been making this comment. I know that we have fun at this guy's expense, but what happened to Dak Prescott the other day was horrific. And I really hope he recovers and can get back to playing football the way he knows how. And to be honest with you, I hope to God he leaves Dallas now and goes successful somewhere else, because the poor guy was drugged through the mud by those idiots. It was only last week that Jerry Jones was saying Tony Romo makes that pass that Dak doesn't make, and saying stupid crap like that. If I'm Dak, I'm already looking to get the hell out of there after what they did to me.
And I also don't trust them to do the right thing by Dak at all. I don't trust them.
Prayers up on the recovery, Dak. But
100%.
we thank you all for joining us today. Make sure you are subscribing to the Painted Lines YouTube channel. Babes on Broad, what are you doing this weekend? You guys got a pregame or what?
I don't know. We haven't talked about it yet. Today, I lost a day today.
Yeah.
I was not okay.
Jeff was out of commission. So
Well,
Jeff,
another episode coming out soon. Listen to the one.
stay on Twitter. Follow at Run This Town 13. Follow at Philly_Madness. We'll be back to talk about an Eagles win next week. And until then, embrace the madness, everybody. Have a great week.